What's up, wrestling fluency community? We're back. Did you miss it? You speak wrestling because we do, and we sure hope you do as well. This is the Alabama Slammer, hanging out once again with my co-host with the most,
the king of Pennsylvania strong style and the champion of time, $1 million Matt. What is up, everybody?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So it's been a minute.
Yeah, it totally has. And I'll tell you one thing, and I was saying to Brandie, we definitely missed y'all.
Yeah. I watched Shelly had the upper while, and it was just nice to get invigorated again and interested. I got on Peacock and watched, Stephanie McMahon's episode of Evil, and then I watched an old SmackDown, and it was just like, old shoe,
Yep, exactly. It's almost like taking out your old childhood bicycle and you realize, man, this is my first bicycle. Or better off yet, better comparison, we'll even go with your very first car. Just that same nostalgic feeling you had that just feels like, okay, this is why I love this. This is why this has so much meaning. And this is why we're put on this earth. So I don't know about you, Brandie. That's exactly how I felt.
Absolutely. I understand. For me, when it comes to wrestling, I have always wanted to be a part of the wrestling community, like to be a part of just that world. At one point, I thought I wanted to be a wrestler, and that quickly went away to I became obsessed with the idea of writing for the magazine. And when I first started college, I was even getting a communications degree in the hopes of writing for WWE magazine. So Matt and I both have wanted to be a part of wrestling in some form or fashion the majority of our lives, it seems.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I was going to say, aside from Brandie too, I also at some point wanted to be a wrestler. And I think me and you actually talked about this, Brandie, where we watched Tough Enoughs. And I remember me and a kid I had class with, we would break out in like a Tough Enough, like fake fight and like fake punch each other, like Tough Enough. And it was fun. But at that point, and then that dream kind of died and ended up getting into the workforce, and just been really about pretty much making money. But that was my 20-year-old brain not processing that that's not what life is all about.
Oh, for sure. I think that what happens is once you graduate, you just get swept up in the flow of because you've been doing essentially a job your whole life by going to school. You've been going to school like 7 to 3, 8 to 3, whatever it was for your particular area, 5 days a week, since you were 5 or 6 years old. And now you just I know that my first job really out of high school, it was pretty much just like an extension of high school.
Right, exactly. And one thing I will say about my job out of high school is that I really have grown up a lot, and especially with connecting with people and getting around people and really just knowing how to move in and out of basically transitioning from adolescence into adulthood. That's basically what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
I was trying to get my thoughts together here, people.
I understand. So the long story short on this is that both Matt and I have always wanted to be a part of wrestling in some way, and we might have taken the long road to get there, but here we are as podcast personalities on a wrestling podcast.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Okay, well, we can talk about that more a little later in the show. Right now, let's kind of update the people on where we've been. I know we spoke about it a little on the last episode that we were going to be out for a while, but I do want to kind of just update them on the been happening and such. Matt, why don't you go first?
Yep. So where I've been, if y'all don't know, I actually work at a power plant full time. That's my 9-to-5 job. And we have something that usually happens during the springtime, and it's usually around the time of WrestleMania, and that is an outage. And for those that aren't familiar, what an outage is, it's basically where you shut down the reactor, and the two towers in the plant are basically shut off. Like, you won't see any steam coming out of it. And it's to work on different projects. And a lot of groups from all over the country come over to work on these projects for an extensive period of time. Usually it'll last a month and a half. Actually, believe it or not, back in the day, they would usually last around 6 months, which I cannot imagine doing 12-hour days and 7 days a week for 6 months. There is absolutely no way I would survive that and at least come out sane. But thankfully, it only lasted about 2 weeks. It felt like a month, but it was worth it at the end, because I just felt that feeling of accomplishment. Like, the money didn't matter, the hours didn't matter. It's just, I got through this. So that's the extent of where I've been. And I was just basically trying to get myself back into a whole normal flow, just that work-life balance. So that's basically where I've been. Plus, also prepping for a vacation I'm going to on June. I'm actually going to Pittsburgh with my dad. We're going to check out a few Pirates games, so that should be fun.
Yeah, sounds like it'd be great.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, but how about yourself, Brandie?
Well, so I don't even know where to begin with this. I'll start with school. I know I mentioned in the last episode that I've been attending school full-time, or part-time. I've been working full-time and attending school part-time since 2019. And, I finished up this semester, and it was a really hard semester to finish. I just found out today that I did indeed pass both classes, so I'm very excited about that. I've been doing that, and in the past year, I've really been working on my mental health and dealing with the struggles of being a human, where you go through periods of depression or periods of high anxiety and just trauma. So I've been doing a lot of, obviously, my regular work, and then my future work of working on I'm in a software development program, and then just personal work on myself. So those three things tend to keep me pretty wrapped up and busy, but school especially did. And I'm just real glad that everything is finally over, and I'm taking the summer off. So that's what I have been up to since we've been out.
Yep. And I want to go off and first say congratulations, Brandie, on passing your classes. I know it was a tough process, but it definitely goes to show that when you put the work in, even if it feels uncomfortable, just like, it'll pay off, it'll be worth it, and it's just going to be awesome. You're creating a life for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a struggle because I chose to do all online classes this time. And, when it was things like history classes and stuff like that, it was no big deal because I've always been fairly knowledgeable in history. And at the same time, at some point you can just listen to the lecture in the background while you do something else. Doing coding is not the same. Coding is an active mind thing. So you're our class, you're mentally engaged that whole time. And then in the past, I've had a job that would have long periods of downtime. So I was able to really bounce between doing my job and then having the downtime and filling that downtime with doing school and stuff. So I was able to do a lot of schoolwork at work and really just maximize that time. I'm not able to do that now. The job I have now is my eyes and my brain are engaged the entire time. So I can't throw a coding, and then so I have a job that's like that, and I'm studying a program that's like that. Not the same as when I could just listen to a history lecture while during the downtime of my previous job. So I'm happy. I've really been trying to make better study habits and stuff, and just better habits for life in general. And this past semester, a lot of those really got off going to be very beneficial for me in life, I believe.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's something, believe it or not, Brandie, I've talked to somebody I actually work with, especially when it comes to having those soft skills. Like, a lot of people don't realize how valuable soft skills are. Especially with connecting with people, because that's basically the field we're in. We're looking to connect with you. We're hoping to build this community and hopefully have it be a safe space where people can openly talk about wrestling and not be judged. I actually seen a meme recently where there was a swear jar which was damn near empty and one that said where you just openly talk about wrestling, and that one was full. I was like, yeah, for me and Brandie, you might want to get a bigger jar.
That's very wrestling is kind of one of those things that people, when you bring it up to someone, they're like, yeah, so like what are some of the things you do? And or they'll ask you to hang out and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, like that afternoon I'm actually recording a podcast. And like, oh, what's your podcast about? You're like, it's about professional wrestling. And you kind of just have to gauge what they're going to say about it, you know? Like, ugh. And you know what? I thought about this. People don't have that experience. If someone was to be like, oh, yeah, I do like a comic book podcast, people would be like, oh, yeah, so that's a hobby. I understand that. That's like a show or a comic book that you like. And like they understand that. But with wrestling, they're like, really?
Yeah, they kind of like,
real?
they kind of like cringe at it, and they're like, really, you haven't grown out of this phase? I was just like, I'll probably be watching it while I'm on my deathbed.
For real. Yeah, and so that's annoying to me because I'm like, this is no different than people being a fan of Game of Thrones. It's no different than people being a fan of boxing. You know, it's no different than being a fan of musical theater, which, trust me, as a fan of musical theater, I still get ribbed a lot about that as well.
Yeah, I was going to add another one to you, Brandie. It's almost like if you love Law and Order or CSI.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do a podcast on that, shoot, that's freaking awesome.
So it will be nice to create the space to connect people who want to talk about wrestling in a mature and rational way, because I think that a lot of people that have like some hesitation about wrestling may also stems from the fact that the wrestling community out there, the IWC, can be really toxic and really just hateful to each other. That's not really something we approve of here.
Yeah, definitely not. And we really honestly want to get rid of the tribalism that I've noticed in the wrestling industry, because you got some people that are all for WWE stuff, and hey, that's fine. There are a lot of people that are more towards the AEW side, and hey, that's cool. Some people like Impact, some people like New Japan, some people like NWA. We want to bring all that together, and even some of the smaller indie promotions that are looking to try to book talent as much as they can. If the major promotions like WWE and AEW ain't scooping them up, and even support them. You know, we want to create a space for all that.
Yeah, so. I don't understand the whole like AEW versus WWE, and I know that AEW really edges that. They really like push on that, and AEW became popular because it became like this beacon of hope for people who are really disenchanted with WWE. I just don't want to go. I don't want to pick a side. I don't want to be like, oh, that person's in WWE. They're like shit. You know, I don't. I'm like, no, that's just the company they work for. You know,
exactly.
If a wrestler's good, they're going to be good in AEW. They're going to be good in Impact. They're going to be good in WWE, NXT. They're going to be good. So I want to support wrestlers, not so much the programs companies they work for.
Yeah, exactly. And this kind of brings me back to an interview that I seen with AJ Styles, a clip of an interview I seen with him, where he was saying, I'm not rooting against AEW at all. Like, most of my friends work there, and I want to see them win. So that goes to show even the wrestlers aren't really like pro their company that they work for. And I'm sure the same follows suit for some that are in AEW that have friends that work in WWE. It's just like, I want to see you win.
Well, you have people like AJ Styles, who in particular, the biggest portion of his career and his history was made on independence, was made on shows like TNA Impact and stuff like that. So, and then even Kevin Steen and Sami Zayn, although, well, I guess because Sami Zayn was El Generico. But Kevin Steen's a good example of being on ROH really made him. Daniel Bryan's, gosh, I was saying this backward. Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan in WWE, he made a name for himself on the independents. And so, you just gotta support them and don't care so much about which company that they're currently at. Just any opportunity that a wrestler I like gets to work a cool angle or have matches makes me happy, and I don't begrudge them being wherever. And I think the more companies that are out there, I'm very pro, let's get some more wrestling going. Freddie Prinze Jr. recently talked about he's wanting to open.
Yes, I just seen that actually.
I am all for different platforms coming up. I would really love a return to something that felt more like the territory days, just because it gives you more options. WWE for the longest time had been the Amazon.
The end all be all. The Apple, whatever you want to call it, the top echelon company that you wanted to work for. It's basically the Hollywood. It's basically the Hollywood of the wrestling world. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
It makes me happy to know that people are out there that maybe don't fit the WWE mold, that can have just as good of a quality of life and career and finances as working for WWE, and maybe not have to work the road so much.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that could definitely take a toll on your body, especially working 300 days out of the whole week or 300 plus days out of the whole week. That really takes a toll on your body, and also takes a toll on your mental state too.
Actually, this is a good segue into our next topic, which is wrestling current events. You're talking about taking a toll on your body and stuff. Recently, Roman Reigns has re-signed his contract, but it's been for reduced days. I don't know if you had seen that news popping up, but
I definitely seen
a very good example of, other than when he had to take time out for his cancer battle, Roman had been on the road consistently for, gosh, I don't even know how long, nearly a decade.
Yeah, it sounds about right. And just even after he came back, he was constantly working and on the road, and basically, I don't want to give him too much credit for it, but basically carrying the company on his back.
Yeah, I mean, and there was definitely this, even in this past year, the only reason to watch SmackDown was to watch him and Paul Heyman.
Yep. And recently, Brandie, I actually tried sending you this, but more than likely, if you haven't seen it on Instagram, you gotta check it out. It was these fans that were imitating the Bloodline's entrance. Yeah, it was some kid. I'm not sure where he was from, and I can't even think of his handle. But it's basically all over. It's all over Instagram, and it's all over some of the wrestling groups that are in existence on Facebook. But it was an imitation of their entrance, and I think they nailed it. It was awesome. So if you get a chance, Brandie, check it out.
I have seen the video, but I haven't watched. If that makes I've seen the beginning of it, but I haven't sat and watched it yet.
Yeah, and the one I was actually trying to show you was the one where Roman and them spotted it. And what's funny is Paul Heyman tried to claim and file a lawsuit against him. I guess being facetious and all that, being Paul Heyman. And then Usos getting ready to say, yo, man, we should smash these dudes. And then Roman's like, what are you talking about? This is awesome. We've been acknowledged. And then all of a sudden, everybody changed up their tune. And I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah. Wrestling TikTok can give you, and wrestling Instagram can give you some very memorable moments.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what my favorite current memorable moment has been?
What's that?
Hookhausen.
Yes. Yep.
I haven't watched, but I did see that Danhausen tried to give him some chips and he pushed him down.
They do it right. I think it could be the AEW version of RK Bro.
I felt like it was very rock and sock.
Oh yeah, that too. Or Booker T and Goldust. Booker T and Goldust. Booker T and Goldust.
I love Danhausen. I don't know. I just saw him. The first time I saw Danhausen was it was on a poster for a show he was going to be at locally, and I was like, I don't know who this is, but I want to know more. He just looks interesting. And so many things that Danhausen's character has, like the whole month, like his new entrance has, the new entrance song is very Munsters feel, and I'm a huge Munsters fan. He's just like that B comedy horror kind of person, and I'm like, yeah, I love all that stuff. So I really connect with the Danhausen character and enjoy it.
Oh yeah, and yep. And I was gonna say kind of the same thing with Hook. And as I mentioned before, I'm a big ECW fan, and Taz is on my ECW Mount Rushmore. So just the fact that he has a kid in wrestling who is pretty much sort of has the same moveset, only a little turned up. And I will say this, because of Hook, I'm a big fan of Action Bronson, the rapper Action Bronson. It seems like every one of his songs just seem like bangers, from like Chairman's Intent to a song that I like of his called White Bronco.
I have not listened to any of that, but I barely have time to listen to myself think. So I like Hook too. I hadn't really seen much of Hook, and then lately I've been catching up more, and I was like, I like this guy. I like the they're like the cold-hearted, handsome devil or something. I'm like, really?
Yeah, he gave him a good moniker.
Yeah, I like it. And it blows my mind that that's Taz's son. I want to see what Taz looked like at a young age. I'm like, what? What did Taz look like then? Because like in my head, Taz has always looked like exactly how he did when ECW invaded WWE.
Yeah.
But that is something interesting I've been seeing. So the last episode that we had was leading up to WrestleMania. As we know, at WrestleMania, we had the big surprise that's not a surprise, of Cody returning and having a feud there with Seth. What did you think about the WrestleMania match? What have you been thinking about the feud so far?
I think it's been booked pretty solid, and honestly, it's making both Cody and Seth look good, because as you know, Seth is known as one of Dusty's kids, especially during the FCW transitioning into NXT, those days where Seth learned a lot from Dusty, and then Cody being Dusty Rhodes' actual kid and offspring. So I think it has a great connection right there. If it's built up story-wise and it makes sense, it has a good payoff, I think it could really be solid. But honestly, that was my match of the night when it came to WrestleMania 38.
Yeah, I absolutely loved that match. I thought it was probably the match of the night. I gave a lot of steam to Becky and Bianca. That was a great match too. But I really did enjoy that display. Oh, sorry, my cat's trying to get on here.
And I was going to say too, Brandie, speaking of WrestleMania 38, I will say this. I think we were wrong about Logan Paul.
I was so pleased and shocked. We were totally wrong about Logan Paul.
Yep. So we're just going to say this. Our bad. That was on us. We did not know.
Yeah, well, look, the odds were in our favor for us to be right on. But, wow, congrats to Logan Paul. He put in the work. I mean, obviously he was working off of one of the best in the freaking world, Rey Mysterio. But
definitely.
He was excellent. And I was, someone else was saying on a commentary kind of podcast, like, Vince should put money in that kid. And I was like, honestly, yeah. Like, Logan Paul's got it. He's an attractive young man. He's obviously quite athletic and has a knack for wrestling. He already knows how to be an on-screen personality. I mean, yeah, I'd sink some money in and hire him. The person I was listening to also said something about hiring Jake, and I'm like, I don't know that I'd go that far. But Logan Paul, definitely. He's one of those people that just come up and surprise you, like when The Miz jumped from being the Mike from the real world to I'm a wrestler now. I'm like, that guy is actually a wrestler now.
Yep, and I'll tell you this, even during the real world days, I was a fan of The Miz and wanted to see him succeed, and my prayers were answered that he's one of the biggest superstars in WWE.
I want to backtrack just a second to Cody and Seth.
Oh yeah, totally.
So since WrestleMania, like the night, he kicked off the Raw after WrestleMania, and he comes out and he does that whole "I just want the belt that they took from my daddy in the garden," like that whole thing. And Jim Cornette spoke about this on his podcast, and I totally agree. It's an old school wrestling angle. Like a lot of times on WWE television or on wrestling programs in general, people are fighting and you don't really know what they're fighting for. Cody has got like a very clear, distinct story. I'm back in the WWE. I wasn't taken seriously, so I took some time off and I made a name for myself. I'm back. I want the title that my dad got screwed out of, and like that. It's emotional. It's blurring the lines between like reality and kayfabe. It's a really good thing. Of course, him and Seth are having killer matches, and it looks like they're going to go for like 3, obviously. I don't know necessarily that I would have booked 3 out, but, whatever. It's what we're getting, and that's fine. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Cody is obviously this year, at some point, going to be making a run for the WWE title, or on the way to the top to be feuding for the WWE title. And that brings me to Drew McIntyre, who I had read just like here and there that they were originally, after WrestleMania, going to run him and Roman against each other. And now there's been like hesitance to do that and backing off of that. Have you noticed that any? Or
Yeah, I think I'd seen that they were going to do a little bit of a build up with that. And I'll say this about McIntyre. He's definitely one of the guys that could do it because he still has that badass baby face that you believe in. And I've said this about him before. He's a baby face that you can believe in, that he's really tough. Like I'll make a bold statement. He gives me sort of like that same feeling with a lot of wrestling fans that were coming up in the 80s with Hulk Hogan. I mean, it's a weird comparison, but it's a baby face that you believe in. Like, this guy could actually be a legit hero.
See, I've got to just pay closer attention to him. It seems like every time I like drop out and don't get to watch a lot and then come back in, I tend to somehow, I've dropped out during when he's having like a high. And then when I come back in, he's on some stupid little storyline.
Yeah, some angle with like Happy Corbin and Mad Cat Moss.
Yeah. So I keep accidentally missing his like good runs. And
yeah. And you kind of got to expect that, especially with TV wrestling, where you just got to have stuff to just put in as a filler, just to kind of not really take somebody off their journey back to the goal, but just kind of give them a side mission.
Exactly. Let's see. What else has happened wrestling currently? So all of a sudden Adam Page is kind of heelish. Have you noticed this? Like against CM Punk?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely have noticed a shift with the Hangman, the current AEW champion. So he's pretty much more like shitting on CM Punk and really just like taking digs at him. I'm just like, okay, Hangman, you're showing me that you got a little something to you.
Yeah, and I'm like,
yeah, you got a little substance.
I'm like, wait, so is this the switch? And then like, but this past AEW Dynamite, CM Punk said some heelish shit, and I'm like, what's happening? I don't know what's happening, but I'm intrigued. I like both of them.
Yeah.
I really love I know it's a Neil Cowboy thing. I love that. As a millennial who grew up in the South, I am around millennial cowboys all the time. And so I love it. I love that he wears the cheesy shirts and the big belt buckle stuff. I love that. I think that's good character. So I'm excited to see their match because, CM Punk can drag a good match out of anybody.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, even if you're the worst worker, Punk could bring out the best in anybody.
Definitely. And then so there's some complaint on the internet about Daniel Bryan not being the person going for the title, and that they had like this amazing heel with him, and then he joined up with Jon Moxley, because people have mixed feelings about Moxley. I personally really like Jon Moxley.
Hello?
I'm not. Oh, did I lose you?
I was going to say, I think there goes my headphones again.
Oh yeah. Um, I was talking about Daniel Bryan or Bryan
Yeah.
Danielson.
Yeah,
The whole
I
time
have that habit too.
the whole time he was in the WWE, I called him Brian, and now that he's not in the WWE, but Brian Danielson.
Yep.
I know a lot of people aren't quite so happy about him being in a stable now, but I like the idea of the Blackpool Combat Club. I think that's cute. I think that's a fun thing to do, and I like Bryan Danielson, like not only as a wrestler but as a person, and I know how much he just wants to have fun in wrestling, and he doesn't necessarily care about being the guy at the top. He just wants to like have cool matches with his friends and like have awesome matches out there. And that's why I can look at him being in this group and be like, man, he gets to be with Regal, who was really important to his career, and he's getting to like work with John Moxley, which his wife and him, of course, are very friendly. And then they're like bringing up Wheeler Yuta, who's a very promising wrestler. I was like, I don't hate it. And apparently, there's a rumor that Tony is going to have a trios championship brought in. So it looks like they may be being groomed to be the trios champions.
Yep, and I'm all for it because for one thing, you're introducing a new title, and second off, you're involving guys like my favorite team, the House of Black. You're giving them also an opportunity and a shot to be the best and at the top of their game and just being a legit threat. Even have them feud with the Blackpool Combat Club because I'm all for it.
Yeah. What did you think about that? I don't know if you watched it, but there was a segment where Jericho Appreciation Society comes out and they're like talking about how they're sports entertainers or whatever. And then Moxley comes out, and then the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club comes out and stuff. And then Eddie Kingston, and I forget who else.
And LAX.
Yeah, and LAX.
Santana and Ortiz.
I liked that. I thought that, I was like, this moment is for the wrestling fans, like the people who are more wrestling purists.
I dug it, and not to transition into comic books, but it definitely gave me that Avengers Endgame portal scene. If y'all seen that scene, you know what I'm talking about. So it definitely gave me that, like, you got both teams coming out ready to take out one of the big bads.
I thought it was a good scene. I thought it was very tongue-in-cheek, just for, the people who back in the day would swap tapes. I was like, yeah, this is for a very specific part of the audience, but that's okay. You were talking about House of Black. What do you think about Edge having the Judgment Day?
I am digging it. I actually am enjoying it. And from what I understand, it seems like they're going to add new members. So I'm all for it. I really love the fact that they're incorporating Edge, Damian Priest, recently added Rhea Ripley. And what's cool is we don't know who else is going to join this group. I mean, a lot of people have rumored Finn Balor is a possible new member. Tommaso Ciampa is another possible new member, and somehow, some way, even maybe T-Bar. But honestly, for me personally, I think I added T-Bar in there as like a personal prediction. But I'm all for it. I really love this group. It goes to show that there could be a really dominant stable, very evil, no pun intended to Danhausen. But I think it could be a legit threat aside from the bloodline on the Monday Night Raw side. And I really think that team could really dominate and just take over that company and just be an interesting segment that people want to see. At least for me on my end anyway.
Yeah. Now, when they were first doing this stuff with Edge and Damian Priest, Brody King did make a tweet talking about how they pretty much felt like it was a ripoff of what they were doing. What do you think about that?
I think I see somewhat of that being true. I mean, it's a dark gothic stable. I mean, you're basically combining the Brood and the Ministry in one. I mean, especially if whether you're referring to House of Black or you're referring to Judgment Day, that's basically what it is. Just like that really dark threat stable that we haven't had in a long time, especially since the Ministry of Darkness. And I think both teams are just doing it their way. They have their own rendition of it.
It
That
feels
makes
like
sense.
it feels like House of Black has a more fantastical element to it, like a more magic kind of
Hmm.
mixed into it. Whereas like the Judgment Day does not. It's more psychological in a sense. It's not so
Yeah,
much like, hey, we've got powers and stuff or anything like that. I do
yeah,
see why Brody King and them would be like, dude, why did you have to bite our idea? Because it felt a little like that. But at the same
right.
time, it is very rude. It is very ministry, which is obviously stuff from, when Edge was around and kicking. I think there's enough room in both of them, and may the best person do it, like
Oh
do
yeah,
it,
definitely.
just
Yep.
keep doing it. I can understand, though, why House of Black would feel like it stole their thunder. And obviously, House of Black, the name is 1,000 times better than the Judgment Day. I hate the name the Judgment Day. I think that is an awful name. One, because I immediately went, oh, the Judgment Day, the New Day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If
What other
if
kind of day?
yeah, if Edge and Damian team up, they're obviously at some point going to fight the New Day. Like that's going
Yeah,
to
at
be
some
really
point.
annoying. And then Judgment Day was already a WWF pay-per-view. I was like, this is
Yep,
all y'all think
exactly.
of. I
Yeah, I
just
mean,
I don't like
uh,
it.
yeah. I mean, I didn't like the name, but I'm willing to give it a chance.
I'm hoping it because if you recall, many years ago when they were first doing the Divas Evolution or
Hmm.
Divas, they had Paige and Becky and Charlotte, and we all come to know them to be PCB. That was their team. But
Hmm.
originally, they were the Submission Sorority.
Yeah, yeah. Which, from what I understand, that reference towards an adult film, which nobody really knows about.
Yeah, and so there's been name changes in the past. I hope they change because it's kind of hokey. Even the font that they use for it is kind of hokey, and I'm like,
Yeah,
it's giving,
yeah,
it's giving Disney Channel in the '90s. Hokey.
yeah.
I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, I
It has
mean,
the
if you,
concept.
I mean, here's the thing, Brandy. If you really wanted to do a legit name change, and I was actually thinking this as you were talking about it, some kind of like something involving family in it, like some kind of, I don't know what you would do, some kind of like dark name or family, just kind of with that ministry meets the brood, and I'll even throw this obscure one out there, something involving sanity.
See, I would not choose any of those words because they have been tied to recent stables.
Right.
And you don't they're already going to deal with like the fact that their gimmick is going to be put up against House of Black. You don't want,
Right.
like House of Black, for instance. It's a great name, and it
Oh
like
yeah.
when you say House of Black, you don't really think about anything else. Like when you say the Heart Foundation, you don't really think about anything else but the Heart
Hmm.
Foundation. When I
Or
say the Judgment Day, I think about the pay-per-view and the New Day right off the bat.
yep.
So if you put
Yep.
something with like family in it, you would be like, oh, like the Wyatt family. If you put something like sanity in it, you'd be like, oh, like sanity
Yeah.
from. So I would
Yeah.
shy away from those because you can draw comparisons to other things.
Yeah. I mean,
There's a whole lot of things like there's just a
yeah.
whole lot of like dark
Yeah.
gothic words that they could have gone with, and the
Yeah.
Judgment Day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what I was basically going at, well, I was just basically spitballing, just
Yeah,
seeing
no,
what sticks.
I understand, but that's just why I wouldn't personally
Yeah.
choose.
Yeah.
I would like them to have a better name. I don't know that they're going to get a better name. I do think they have a really cool entrance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially with using Edge's theme song.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think that theme song is fire.
Yeah. I'm not here for Rhea Ripley having black hair.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while to get used to that, but like all things, I usually come around to it. But that's just me.
I think that whenever you're portraying a goth character, your first thought is, oh, I need to dye my hair black. And I'm like, no, let's not. Let's
Yeah.
not. You don't have to have black hair to be goth. And Rio just looks so gorgeous with the blonde. I'm like, why?
Hmm.
And I guess she's done with Liv. I think that story arc is over. Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they closed the book on that one.
But it
But
makes me wonder how Rhea being in this group is going to work in regards to her being in the women's.
right, yeah. I'm sure there's something they could do to somehow incorporate her in there, but it's going to take a lot of long-term story booking because my view for Judgment Day, if anything, is kind of the same thing that they're looking to do with the Bloodline, where they have all the titles. Although Edge doesn't really need a title, you know what I mean?
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah, yeah. Edge doesn't really need it, but just like somehow just solidifying their status as a legit threat, especially when you're bringing in something like that, just like the freaking dumpster fire that they called Retribution. Let's not talk about that, shall we?
Yes. I would like to see some gear change for Damian Priest.
Mm-hmm.
Some of his gear feels very Hot Topic.
Yep. And we want to shy away from the Hot Topic.
We know where I stand on.
Oh yeah.
Which gets me to another current event: Alexa Bliss coming back and her outfit being amazing. I thought she looked fantastic in her.
Oh yeah, she definitely did. Yep, and even had an impressive pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a solid pop. I was like, holy cow, she's back.
Is it just me, or does her face look really different now?
I haven't really taken notice, to be honest with you. I'd really have to study it and be like, okay, maybe there's a change.
Yeah.
Or I don't really notice anything.
It looks a bit more airbrush. What I think it is that she used to do really heavy silver and black eye makeup before she was like with the Fiend and stuff.
Right.
So she had really, really heavy dark eye makeup. And then she did, the black lipstick and all the heavy stuff when she was with the Fiend. And now she's back and she seems to be doing, it's still dramatic, but it's lighter. So she looks more like a Disney in the face.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she had work done, and that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that, like, her makeup, her look, they've changed her look up, and it looks really nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the best way I could look at it is she looks a little more natural.
Yeah, I think that she's just not doing that really harsh eye makeup anymore.
Right.
And it looks really good as the next evolution of Alexa Bliss.
Yep, exactly.
Which she came out in, like, I don't know, it was not really like Fiend Bliss, and it wasn't really older. It seemed a little bit like older Bliss, like before the stuff. But she had Lily with her.
Yep, exactly. And I think their approach they're trying to do is, I'm not sure if they're trying to do the whole goddess thing along with the whole Fiend days with her, if that's what they're going for. But it seems that's the kind of direction they're going for. They're trying to combine the two and make some evolved Alexa Bliss. Like I don't know the direction they're going with that, but more than likely, if I was thinking about it, that would be how I would see it. Be like, okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, it was nice to have Alexa Black. Alexa.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're thinking a lot of House of Black.
It was nice to have her back. We also have seen Asuka return finally.
Oh yeah, it's about time.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, speaking of returns, anytime now, anytime y'all want to bring Bailey back, I'm waiting.
I was excited to see Asuka for like a few, and then I realized it's just the same shit with Asuka that it's been for the past, I don't know how many years now, and I was like, I respect Asuka as a performer, but I'm so sick of her character. I'm so bored. I hate the green goo all over her face. I hate that. I love her costumes, even though she could stand to get some new ones. But it's just like Asuka's been the same character, be it as a good girl or a bad girl. She's been the same character for so freaking long.
Yeah, and that's one of the things where a certain performer can get really complacent in where they're at, just like they get pigeonholed into this little box. That's the character that they're supposed to portray, and after a while, fans get sick and tired of it.
Yeah, like you've got to change up your look. You've got to change up something.
Yeah, especially if you're making a big return, especially after an injury. I remember when Seth Rollins, if you noticed, when he came back after that whole knee buckle debauchery, that whole injury where he was out for an extended period of time, you noticed that damn near the freaking blonde streak was gone,
Yeah.
and he was a different Seth Rollins.
Oh, I remember it growing up. But
Yep.
like everyone, you have to have a style evolution. You can't just have the same costume all the time. Can't have the same makeup or face paint all the time. You got to do different stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what really bores me with Asuka.
Yep. And I'll give you another one, and we'll transition to Cesaro, now Claudio, into a minute. Take Claudio when he came back from one of his big injuries, and he came out with the James Bond entrance.
I loved that entrance.
I did too. That was so freaking awesome. I was like, put the title on him now. I was like, that is the best time to push Cesaro, or now he's back to his indie name, Claudio Castagnoli, or maybe just Claudio. But yeah, I see him. I see Claudio doing big things. Hopefully in either AEW or Impact or whatever company is willing to pay for his asking price. Because I think from what I understand, he's asking for a pretty big asking price. I'm not sure the amount of money that it is, but that's I think where Cesaro is at, or Claudio. I'm used to calling him Cesaro. That's like the same thing with you with Daniel Bryan and Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, I know. Because when they first start in WWE, you keep calling them by their indie name, and then they'll go back to the indies from WWE, and you can't stop calling them their WWE name.
Yeah. It's like, blah, 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 Cesaro. Claudio. That's right. He's Claudio again.
So, what do you think about Ric Flair trying to train to do an in-ring comeback?
I mean, the thing I seen with him and Lethal, he looked like he could go, but I just don't want to see it again. That's just me personally.
I don't think anyone wants to see a 73-year-old man bumping around. Like, it was hard to watch even back when he was having the match with Shawn.
Yeah.
At some point, it's like you're watching someone beat up someone's grandpa.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I love the idea of him keeping in ring shape so he could be a manager and take bumps and stuff like that if he had to.
Yeah,
but nobody wants to see Flair in a 60-minute match, you know?
Yeah.
It reminds me of the thing that Edge said a long time ago. He, in wrestling, never really tried to go by his real name because when it was time to hang up his boots, he wanted to be able to separate Edge from Adam.
Mm-hmm.
And Ric Flair just has not been able to separate Ric Flair from, wrestler Ric Flair.
Right, exactly.
He's literally the definition of I'm gonna die in the ring.
Yeah, pretty much. Kind of like the same angle with one of my favorite movies ever made, The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, where basically you knew he was going to get ready to die in the ring, and he just wanted to go out in a blaze of freaking glory.
Let's see, what else? Oh, what did you think about Jeff Hardy and Darby Allin's match? Did you get to see that at all?
Oh, yeah. And I was going to say that match, even with Jeff Hardy being a little bit older, it really went beyond my expectations, especially with Darby taking that crazy ass bump. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I'm not like a big spot fest person, but Jeff Hardy was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, and I can appreciate that it was, kind of the younger Jeff Hardy and then Jeff Hardy having that match kind of deal. And I thought it was interesting that, how he won just by just that little roll up.
Yeah, it was weird that they gave him that kind of finish instead of a clean finish where he hits a swanton bomb into 1, 2, 3 or puts Darby over. That's the only complaint I had with that. But other than that, I thought it was a fun match to watch in my personal view.
I'll tell you something that's really had me very happy, and that's MJF and Wardlow. I think their feud has been fantastic.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because I loved all the pomp and circumstance of being at Long Island and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Because when it comes to AEW coming to Long Island, that's the only city where MJF is a legit babyface.
It's Long Island.
Yep. Yep.
It was pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking about this the other day because I happened to see her on Instagram. Lita kind of just fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I haven't heard from her.
Yeah, I was like, I thought she was going to have a more prolonged little stint.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah, I thought they were going to do that. Maybe give her like a little comeback tour, and then I don't know if they were going to somehow, some way incorporate Trish back into it and give them one big last hoorah. Because if you know WWE, they'll run a feud into the ground, even ones that are old and kind of like recurring.
Well, what irritates me these days is that people will retire and they don't stay retired.
Yeah,
I don't mean that in the case of Bryan or Edge. That's different. I mean, Trish Stratus retired in 2000, and then she came back in 2011, I think. And that's fine. And then she came back and she did some other little bit. But this match with Flair, that was supposed to be her like done. She was supposed to be hanging up the boots after that. And it's not even hard. Has it been a year? Has it been a year since that match? Maybe 2. And they're already talking about her coming back and working with Sasha Banks and Becky. And I'm like, then stop selling every match that she comes back to do as her final match. Stop it.
Yep, exactly. And another one, I was going to say, since you brought up Trish Stratus, another one, freaking Goldberg. Like, how many times has WWE brought back Goldberg for one last match?
I know. And, like, as much as they dance The Undertaker out there, I don't know why we're surprised that they do this to other people. But
yeah, it's just like his last retirement match. This could be Goldberg's last match. And it's just like, dude, how many times do we need to literally see The Undertaker? I mean, don't get me wrong. Undertaker's one of my favorite characters of all time. But to have him wear out his welcome is like, all right, that's enough.
yeah,
I get it. I get it. You're trying to sell the event, but dude, come on. That's why it is important to build up new characters. That's why it's important to build up new stars so that you don't have to keep bringing in the old timers.
Yeah, well, so your respected veterans don't start getting go home heat, you know. Let's see. Taking it back to WrestleMania and stars coming out of retirement. I absolutely loved the Stone Cold stuff. And I thought Pat McAfee did an amazing job against Austin Theory, who I refuse to call just Theory. That's just the stupidest shit.
Yeah, that was completely retarded.
Loved Vince's wacky way he takes the stunner. That was such a good time. Stone Cold legit at the time of his life.
Oh yeah. Stone Cold was definitely having fun out there. And I even said this to you before, Brandie. I was surprised that he was taking some of those bumps.
I know when they first started out. It was rusty. It was like, okay, this is not the Stone Cold from back in the day. But as they got further in the flow of the match, he was taking these bumps, and I was like, what the heck? I expected this to stop like 5 minutes ago. Why you're still going and you take your bumps?
Yeah.
It was great. It was very nostalgic. It was crazy. It's crazy to me because, when we first started watching Stone Cold and Vince McMahon, they were in their like 30s, 40s.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Stone Cold is 50 something and Vince is in his 70s. And I'm just like, oh, my childhood. Ow.
Yeah, our freaking childhood is getting older.
Yeah, but that's okay. Well, is there anything else in current events that you can think of that you wanted to bring up, Matt, or should we scuttle on to the next segment?
Oh, I was going to say, now that I think about it, I don't think we got a chance to talk about some of the releases. So from what I understand, some of the release superstars, and as soon as I get out some of my notes.
I don't really remember too many releases that were that shocking.
Yeah.
I just need you to jog my memory.
Yeah, I know Dakota Kai was one of them. Malcolm Bivens from Diamond Mine's one of them. Persia Parada, just to name a few.
Yeah, none of those were really too shocking to me. I know a lot of people were upset about Dakota Kai, but I was kind of the persuasion of they hadn't pulled the trigger on her yet. They weren't going to, especially when they're shipping in like these young ass people they're getting down at the Performance Center now.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, none of the releases have really been that shocking. There's people that I'm shocked haven't missed yet, to be totally honest.
Yeah, really. And some that I really don't see going anywhere, and I'll be like, oh, it's just a matter of time before they should be released.
Yeah, and there's some of them I wouldn't.
Yep. Oh, you know it was a big one, and that I thought of anyway, and it's mostly because they were putting a lot of hype around him, and that was Harlan.
Yeah,
the guy that they put with Joe Gacy.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main reason was because he looked like Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm surprised how much they've hyped this dude up and build this dude up. Like I've literally seen some of the gaming channels that I follow where they're trying to build predict a storyline of building him up as like being with Brock Lesnar and possibly having a run at the main roster. But other than that, like Brandie was saying, some of them really weren't too shocking.
Yeah, it wasn't too shocking.
Yeah.
Well,
but other than that, I think we're going to mosey on to what's coming next as far as our channel is concerned.
Yes. So Matt and I had a meeting today because I am taking off this semester, the summer semester. I need a break, and I may take off the rest. I'm really wanting to rededicate myself to creative projects like this and growing things like this. And Matt also has that desire to grow this. So what's coming next for Wrestling Fluency is a lot more programming, so you can get excited for that. And really us just trying to expand and grow and get out there further. I personally really would like to get our shows on Spotify, things like that. Interested. We've got something. The social media is currently dead, so working on getting that back up. It's a lot to do by ourselves, especially when we've been very, very busy in the past with other stuff. But hopefully now that I don't have to worry about building websites every week, I can worry about making an Instagram post. So we've got a lot of good original programming coming up, and it should be coming to you in a more reliable way, as in we're trying to shoot for every 2 weeks having a new episode out there. And we've got a lot of great ideas that once we start getting some momentum and we can financially be able to take the time needed to increase our programming. We've got stuff we're chomping at the bit to do. We just realistically don't have the time or financial resources to do it right now. So right now we're trying to just do our original programming and get it out there consistently and grow our social media presence and get new listeners in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about a lot of these ideas, and we're not going to peel back the curtain too much, but we definitely have new ideas that I think you folks would really enjoy and you would really like, because good things do take time, my friends. Always keep that in mind. And I do know a couple friends of mine, they've been like, hey, where's some Wrestling Fluency? And I'm just like, relax, folks. We didn't forget about you. We just have been dealing with the 9-to-5 life and a lot of other things, and just been really trying to transition back into where we were before light the boat, you know? Oh, what's that sound?
What?
Oh, what's that sound?
What's that sound?
Oh, I thought I heard something in the background.
No, you cut out though.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I felt I heard something in the background, but anyway, back to things. But yeah, we're just coming up with a lot of new ideas and a lot of new topics that I think you guys would really be interested on, you guys and gals that enjoy our stuff. And I can't say this enough. I am a whole lot grateful for the support that we're getting from a lot of folks that have taken time out of their day to listen. And we appreciate you really sticking it out with us. So That's my take on that. But get ready for the new stuff. So get excited.
Yeah. That's all for me. That's always the thing that floors me about our listeners is that there are people who take the time out of their day to listen. And not only do they listen like once, they come back and listen again. That's so wonderful. And that's why we want to work really hard to get our content on streaming devices because, a lot of people listen to podcasts on Spotify or Apple Music, iTunes, stuff like that. So I really want to, we are slowly but surely taking steps this summer, especially to not only stay consistent in the programming that we're putting out here on YouTube, but also to getting it out there to where it can reach a broader stream audience. And we hope that you will just continue to be subscribed to us and listen and support us as we do our best to give you our best.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm glad Brandie mentioned something about Spotify. Just think about this, folks. Wouldn't it be awesome, especially for you Wrestling Fluency fans out there, to listen to a full episode while making that commute to work? Or just being in the office with your headphones and you're stuck at the office for hours at a time? Wouldn't that be awesome to listen to some good wrestling references while you're in the office and have a smoother day?
Yeah, I mean, and arguably you can do that on YouTube, but at the same time, like YouTube, unless you have YouTube Red, I think it is, you can't let it play in the background of something, like while you do something else. So moving to streaming, and that's not to say that we're going to leave YouTube. Absolutely not. It'll still be the same show, but we want to be able to reach a broader audience and it be more convenient for our audience. And Spotify and stuff like that, streaming services like that tend to let you stream in the background a lot easier than YouTube does. We'd also really love to get to the point where we have a Patreon, and that way we can even start giving exclusive content. And that is a goal that we have for the future, and it will be, there will be some stuff that's going to be Patreon only, because adding more than we already do now, we'll need a little help with that but
oh yeah, definitely. And we'll slowly but surely be transitioning into that, especially with a platform like Patreon.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, just because it will really help us. Like, the situation is never that we don't want to make the content. We always want to make. If I had it my way, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, this is what I would do. I would be watching wrestling tapes. I would be creating new content for you guys. I would be writing articles. I'd be fishing out there for interviews with wrestlers. I would love to grow for Wrestling Fluency. Would love nothing more for it to grow to that. But right now, we are in that part of the grind where we're really just having to dig in and like trudge through and find the people that we need. So when those things get launched, you will definitely be the first people to know about it. We do have social media. We have Instagram, we have Twitter, and we do have a Facebook group. And they exist. They're just not very active right now. So that's going to be a big part for us coming up too. Oh yeah, we're also wanting to get these videos, these episodes. We want to get them on Facebook Watch for people to be able to listen to, because a lot of people do the Facebook Watch thing. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. We'd like to do some live stuff in the future. We've got a lot of stuff that we're excited for, and we hope that you'll stick with us as we get that up and running.
Yep, exactly. And that's something we definitely have been striving to do, especially to put us up on a much more broader platform, just so you guys would have the chance to listen to us basically anywhere. And like Brandie was saying, if we both had it our way, we would be doing this full time. But since we don't have the resources right now, we're just doing what we got to do just to make it to that point. Because myself personally, I would love to have my routine, and then on top of that, throw in some stuff to where I watch some wrestling, I do a little research, I take a little time, and it seems a whole lot genuine. Not that we haven't been genuine before when we put our stuff out there, let's not have that thought in your heads, but it seems a lot more legit.
Yeah. So what we're excited for, what we're going forward doing is really recommitting ourselves to a more consistent product, and we've got a lot of great episodes already planned out, and we're just going to keep up. We're going to add as much as we can, and yeah, just you can really help us out by liking our videos, sharing our videos. If you haven't subscribing to our channel, like tell your friends about us. Interact with us in our comment sections, like our, that would really help us out. And then like just commenting and being like, even if it's dissenting, it still helps us know what our audience is really interested in engaging with, so we can kind of cater some of our stuff to that, to like what you guys want to hear about. But that's not to say that we don't have plenty of stuff that we just specifically want to talk about.
Right, exactly. And pretty much I would like to say, if it wasn't for y'all, there'd be no us. I mean, me and Brandie worked tirelessly to try to get this podcast up and running, but y'all are the real MVPs. So I can't say it enough. We're grateful for you. We appreciate you, but we couldn't do this without your support.
100%. Without you, this is just me and Matt having a conversation. And while that would be just fine, it's nice that there are people who also want to be a part of this conversation. And that's why we are Wrestling Fluency. And we hope that you speak wrestling too, because we sure.
Yep, exactly. And this is the space to do it.
All right. Well, Matt, with that being said, I think it's time that we cut them loose for a while until the next one.
All right, it's time to go on home.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We appreciate you. This has been your spring break recap from Wrestling Fluency. I have been your hostess, the Alabama Slammer Brandie.
And this is the King of Pennsylvania Strong Style and the Champion of Time, $1 Million Matt. And we hope to see you next time.
See you next time, guys. Goodbye, Housen.
All right. Peace.